Hi, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, Integrating Movement into a Well-Rounded Education. Today's webinar is part of our 2017-2018 Wellness Wednesday webinar series. My name is Christina Shelton, and I'm a field coordinator at Action for Healthy Kids. I'm joined today by my friends Ewanike Oktan from Box, who will be sharing about their program and free resources, and Kristen Hanson from Aldo Leopold Community School in Green Bay, Wisconsin, who will be sharing her classroom movement story a bit later. Let's review some logistics before we get started. Once you're linked in, you'll see a control panel, usually on the right side of your screen. You can use your telephone or speakers to listen to this presentation, but everyone will be muted to avoid static and background interference. There's a dialog box at the bottom of your control panel. You can type questions into the dialog box as we're going along, and we'll try to get them answered later in the presentation or via email following the webinar. Today's webinar is being recorded. Links to the recording and the handout will be sent to you in 2 to 3 business days after the webinar. Let's get started. First, I'd like to give you a little bit of a background about Action for Healthy Kids. Action for Healthy Kids fights childhood obesity, undernourishment, and physical inactivity by helping schools become healthier places. Our vision is a world in which every kid is healthy, active, and ready to learn. We are moms, dads, teachers, students, school and community leaders, and school wellness experts who have banded together to create healthier learning environments for our children. We believe that everyone has a part to play in ending the nation's childhood obesity epidemic. Our programs, tools, and resources make that possible. Action for Healthy Kids works to mobilize school professionals, families, and communities to take actions that lead to healthy eating, physical activity, and healthier schools where kids can thrive. We were founded in 2002 by former Surgeon General David Satcher. Today, we have more than 130,000 members. We also partner with dozens of professional organizations, associations, government agencies, and corporations at both the national and local levels. The Learning Connection is a great resource from Action for Healthy Kids to help you make the connection between physical activity, healthy eating, and learning. It's a really great resource. It's easy to read, and it's a special report that summarizes the most recent research proving that healthy kids are better learners. Research shows that physical activity has a positive impact on academic achievement. It leads to more focused classroom behaviors like concentration and memory, and it's related to improved mathematics, reading, and writing test scores. At Action for Healthy Kids, our signature program is GameOn. This program is a free online resource that you can use and tailor to your school's own particular needs. GameOn is a program that helps schools practice good nutrition and physical activity habits with the ultimate goal of getting your school nationally recognized as being a health-promoting school. The program GameOn is organized into 6 steps, as you'll see here on your screen, and each step is created to help guide your school in creating a sound, sustainable school wellness framework. Step 1 is gathering your school wellness team. Step 2 moves into assessment and tracking progress through assessments like the School Health Index. Step 3 is all about creating and implementing an action plan. Step 4, the focus here is finding activities. And on our Step 4 in our GameOn, we have more than 80 fun and easy to implement activity ideas that focus on 2 categories, eating better and moving more. These activities are organized by room within the school building, as you can see here on the screen. So it's easy to search for ideas. And it's also important to note here that this is where you'll find activities and ideas for today's webinar topic. Step 5 goes into engaging families and communities. And then finally, Step 6 is all about receiving recognition. Schools can use GameOn by going through each of the 6 steps or just using GameOn for the ideas, resources, and best practices found in Step 4. So if you're not familiar with GameOn, definitely check this out. There's some great follow-up information here for you that you can use after today. So let's talk a little bit about today's webinar and our focus. When you think about a traditional classroom or learning environment, what stands out? I'd imagine that some of you may think about students being sedentary at desks or tables or working quietly on independent work. Or maybe not. Perhaps you envision students actively engaged, working in pairs and groups, and moving around the classroom in a variety of activities. What we know from the research that we've shared, and really from working with teachers, that active kids are active learners. Movement and physical activity integrated right into lesson plans or as separate activities boosts and activates the brain, improves on-task behavior, and leaves students more focused and ready to engage in academic activities. So really today what we're going to learn about is why physical activity and classroom energizers are evidence-based strategies. You'll hear some simple tips and tricks to get started with or to enhance your active classroom. And then we'll hear about one teacher's journey to create her own active classroom. Before we move into some of these tips and tricks, let's sort of set the stage for why we're here talking about this today. As we look at classroom movement and energizing activities, we see that it fits into the larger picture of physical activity within that school environment. Today, schools across the country are exploring and adapting the whole school, whole child, whole community model. This model highlights the school health components which every school should focus on to ensure the health, safety, and well-being of their students, staff, and environment. Our topic today, integrating movement into a well-rounded education, is a part of the physical education and physical activity component of this model, which is also referred to as the comprehensive school activity, physical activity programming. Physical activity is anything that gets your body moving, walking, biking, sports, dance, and even house cleaning. So in addition to PE classes, schools can provide physical activity time at recess, through fitness breaks throughout the day, classroom learning that incorporates physical activity before and after school programming, and so on. All of these programs can be added up to make your school's comprehensive school physical activity plan. School and classroom-based fitness breaks or integrated movement right into lesson planning is highlighted as an important part of an active school environment. There are many names for classroom-based physical activities such as brain breaks, energizers, and brain boosters. The key here is that regardless of what you call it, the goal is super simple. Get kids out of their seats and physically active for at least 60 minutes per day. Classroom teachers can integrate movement directly as part of a planned lesson like math, science, social studies, and language arts, and other academic subjects. Or you can add in as quick whole class activities that give students opportunity to pause, move, and interact. You can use it as an energizer after lunch or as a way to calm students down before a test. And it's important to note here too, I think a lot of times we think of elementary school classrooms as being the place where kids can be physically active and where we integrate movement into academic subjects. But really, this can be added in for students at all grade levels, K through 12. This will really help to establish an active classroom environment and will enhance all students' learning experiences. So with that, before I turn it over to our first guest speaker today, I'm going to pause and see if there's any questions that came through.
None at this time. Just a reminder that the question box is on the right-hand side, and we will pause at times to answer them. So go ahead and get your questions in.
Thanks, Ellen. So I'm going to turn it over now to Ewanike Akpan. Ewanike is an associate manager in the Mid-Atlantic region for Box. And today she'll be sharing a bit about the Box program and some of the resources that they provide to schools.
Thank you so much, Christina. Hi, everyone. Wanted to just give a little background on the exercise that we're talking about and the physical activity and how that affects the brain, and in particular will help to improve the academic performance of our students if they're doing this throughout the day. So during exercise, muscles send chemicals into the bloodstream, including protein or IGF-1, which contributes to the creation of hormones impacting the systemic growth of almost all organs, and that's including the brain, which we're talking about, nerves, and bones. Physical activity stimulates gray matter in the brain and produces a chemical called brain-deprived neurotrophic factor, or BDNF, which is active in the hippocampus, cortex, and basal forebrain. All these areas are related to memory, higher thinking, and learning. And this diagram illustrates a child's brain without activity, and this was actually taken prior to children taking a test. So the brain at the top is a child's brain without activity, and the image of the brain below is after a child has been walking for just 20 minutes. So you can see the difference between the activity in the brain in both of those photographs. So next slide. So exercise in the brain, it has both a psychological and physiological effect. Neuroscientists suggest that regular physical activity has many different benefits for our body. Some of those are promoting the growth of new brain cells, stimulating formation of blood vessels in our brain, enhancing synaptic activity among our brain cells, contributing to healthy bone and muscle development, reducing feelings of depression and anxiety, and fosters a psychological feeling of just overall well-being. So next slide. And that leads us to the reason why our program was created, based on a book called Spark by Dr. John Rady, and the impact of the research which he included in that book. Our executive director decided to create the BOX program. BOX stands for Build Our Kids Success. And we are now an initiative of the Reebok Foundation. We are a free before, during, and after school physical activity program, which aims to get children moving, and not just in the morning, but also throughout the day, to ready their brains for learning. We know learning happens all day long for our children. So BOX, we provide curriculum materials, and they are available at no cost to schools that enroll through our website. The burst activities that we're going to talk about are activities that are done in a classroom. So they require very minimal space and can be done right at a student's desk and led by a teacher, an in-classroom teacher. The BOX bursts were created to help kids stay active throughout the school day. Bursts are a great way to help students to refocus their attention after a long period of sitting, to increase children's alertness and attentiveness, to curb behavioral issues that may stem from difficulty concentrating, and to transition into and out of activities. So BOX bursts can be led by reading the activity in our curriculum, either over a PA system throughout a school so that a whole school classrooms can participate. They can be placed during an organized assembly at a school, or it can be led by individual teachers or junior leaders. Sometimes teachers encourage the students within the class to come to the front and to lead the whole entire classroom in that BOX burst activity. We encourage classroom teachers to try our different bursts every period, every day, or every week. There are plenty of them to choose from. So the different types of bursts that are included in our BOX burst curriculum can be done in place. We also included wall or chair bursts, meaning that they can use the chairs that are in a classroom or the wall space. And then there are also bursts that can be used if there's more open floor space and there's more of a clear classroom area. What you need in order to conduct these bursts are just our curriculum, again, which can be acquired by any school or organization that has access to children at no cost. Music is always a great way to motivate children to be active, so we encourage the use of music as well as enthusiasm. We're talking about movement, so we want to encourage the kids and have some enthusiasm to get them moving. One person can read the burst to a whole entire group. Again, add music and consider safety, especially with the bursts that are done in really small spaces or around desks or chairs. Consider safety of the activity that is going to be conducted. The advantages of performing daily physical activity bursts with the entire school, either over the PA system or during an assembly, is that you're able to ensure that all students have the opportunity to participate. Regardless of their age or grade, children are encouraged to work together to motivate and support one another as a school community. Some schools even choose to have students move into the hallways to change up the group dynamic and the environment. Teach the children that physical activity should be fun and can happen everywhere. Next slide. So here's an example of one of our bursts. This is an individual burst, so a child would do this alone, stationary to standing up at their desk. It can be done anywhere from 2 to 3 minutes. I also think that introducing bursts to a classroom in shorter periods of time initially is a great way to acclimate the children to that movement. So starting off for 30 seconds is great. For this particular burst, you would do each activity 6 times and then repeat the whole entire circuit. And the 5 different activities are alternating arch touches, ladder climbs, squat jumps in place, crisscrossing the feet, and single leg hops. So again, those activities done right at their desk can get the heart rate up and it increase that activity in the brain. Then a teacher or the student who led that burst would have the children, after they've done that activity, to take a deep breath, have a seat, and get ready to continue to learn.
Thanks, Ewanike. Before we go on to Kristen, I did have a question for you. And my question for you is, how do you, through this program and through these free resources, how do you foster an environment that's inclusive, that every kid can be active regardless of their fitness or their ability level? Is that addressed in your curriculum?
Yes, it's a great question. And the inclusiveness of these activities, especially the bursts, which are done in place, are so simple. They're functional movements that are encouraged for the children to do. And even if a child doesn't want to stand up and to participate in the activities, the break that they are able to take, even just listening to the music that may go on or looking at their classmates participating, can it be an encouraging for them to participate next time, or it's just a mental break in general for them that's needed to then be able to continue to learn the information. But the activities are very simple so that all the students can participate.
Great, thank you. And do these activities, none of them require additional equipment, or do some of them require additional pieces?
They require no equipment whatsoever, which is great, because then that is a way that every school can utilize these resources. No equipment necessary.
Great, thank you. And Alan, do we have any questions from our attendees today?
Not yet.
Okay, all right, everybody, don't forget that you can add your questions in there, and we'll be taking your questions and comments throughout the webinar today. Thank you so much, Ewanike, for your time, and we'll circle back with you in just a little bit if any questions come through.
Great, thank you, Christina.
Okay, so next up, I'm going to turn it over to a friend of mine, Kristen Hanson. She is a 5th grade teacher at Aldo Leopold Community School in Green Bay, Wisconsin. She's going to talk a little bit about how she integrates physical activity directly into her classroom. And before I turn it over to her, I just want to let you guys know this was really exciting. Kristen got involved with Action for Healthy Kids this year because she was a recipient, her school, for a 2017-2018 GameOn grant. Some of the things that they're working on at Aldo Leopold is they are integrating an indoor recess program. So purchasing indoor recess materials, because as you can imagine, in Wisconsin, it gets pretty cold, and there ends up being a lot of indoor recess days. So focus really for that wellness team is indoor recess, but also utilizing some of those equipment pieces for some activity breaks within the classroom through math and science and some of those other core academic subjects. And then also adding in some nutrition education pieces through education curriculum through team nutrition, and then also doing some taste tests in the spring that I know they have scheduled. And then the other thing that was really exciting, and I know Kristen's going to share a little bit, is also integrating Go Noodle, which is a really nice enhancement piece for those classroom breaks. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Kristen, and she's going to share a little bit about her story.
Hi. So like Christina said, I teach 5th grade in Wisconsin. The starting point I had with looking at integrating movement and more physical activity into my classroom was just starting and looking at our schedule. My students don't have recess until 1:45, so there was clearly a need in the morning for a movement break. So I just looked at kind of a midway point through our mornings that would flow well. And my students finish specials at about 11 o'clock. So I pick up my kids from specials and then we go outside. And we have, our school is on a block that nothing else is on our block. It's just our campus and that's it. So my students take 2 laps around our school campus, the block, the sidewalk. And some kids walk that, some kids run that, some kids actually fit in more than 2 laps because they are really fast runners. And that is our main movement break of the morning. And the kids have really enjoyed it a lot. When we come back in the building, it is our writing class. And they're very settled, happy learners. I feel like after our movement break, they're more focused. There's less talking, and they're pretty happy just chilling out in the room and working, as opposed to feeling, antsy or squirrely. There was a day that we had bad weather, so we couldn't get outside, and I checked, and our gym was actually open, which is pretty rare. So we went in the gym and did our movement break there, and we played Sharks and Minnows. I don't know if you guys know that game, but you should learn it. It's great. And that game involves more running than the class usually does outside, and they were exhausted. And that was the best writing class I think we had all fall, because they were just tuckered out and they could think clearly because they weren't squirrely, and felt no need to talk because they were exhausted, and could just channel all the energy into their writing. It was a really positive experience. So as our weather starts to get worse, I anticipate us using some of the indoor equipment we received as part of the GameOn grant, because I don't think we will want to suit up in our winter gear for our walk, which is kind of needed in our winter weather. We'll see as the weather changes how the kids handle that. I anticipate using that indoor recess equipment for our movement break in our room instead. Also on Fridays, my class has Phi-Ed. So on that day, instead of going outside, we stay inside and have done yoga, which the kids have mixed emotions about. Some kids really get into it, and some feel not so positive about it, but we've only tried it a few times, so we'll see how that goes. And we also do once a week an extra recess outside, just to get the kids moving more. And we do that across the entire 5th grade level. They all go out for an extra recess once a week just to get them outside, get them moving. And the kids really look forward to it. It's a very positive part of their day, part of their week, I guess. The other movement that we integrate is using the website called Go Noodle. It has a variety of movement options. Some are dances, some are physical workouts, some are mindfulness and breathing. So we have 2 classes back to back first thing in the morning, and between those 2 classes we take a snack break and use Go Noodle to do 2 or 3 activities. Our snack break is required to be healthy, so the kids can't bring anything processed or packaged. It's just fruit, veggies, and cheese. And they can also get milk from our cafeteria. So we integrate nutrition at that point along with movement. And Go Noodle, we also use, like, we finish a class early, we have a few minutes, or if we're going to a guest speaker and the kids might be expected to sit longer than normal, I would do some Go Noodle movement. And last year I used it to practice mindfulness and breathing, especially around test prep time when the kids are expected to do standardized tests. I feel like there's a little more pressure and anxiety there. And so we would do some of the breathing Go Noodle options before those. And it's a really great website. It has free options. You don't have to pay for a subscription. However, the Go the GameOn grant has bought that for our school, and the additions are really positive. I know a lot of teachers have been enjoying those, but the basic free option is also really great, especially if you have weather concerns like us, where all of a sudden the kids have indoor recess and they're cooped up all day. They even have an indoor recess video. It's like, 20 minutes of straight activity that you can put on and get the kids moving. So they enjoy their recess time and get their wiggles out.
Great. Thank you so much, Kristen. Anything else to add before we move into some questions?
Not from me.
Okay. Thank you so much for sharing your story about getting our kids active. I love the pictures that you shared. I love the ones of them running around outside. Ellen, so I think there was a couple of questions that came through.
Yes, I was furiously typing. So we do have a couple of questions. One was from Jessica, who wanted to know if your principal embraced your efforts to include movement in your schedule, and was this integration adopted throughout the entire school?
Kristen, you want to take that?
Yes. So my principal is very supportive of teaching the whole child, and knows the importance of meeting a child's physical, social, and emotional needs in order for them to be successful academically. So she is supportive, and the integration adopted throughout the entire school. So I know a lot of our school does the Go Noodle breaks. My movement break where I take the kids outside and do 2 laps is just my class. And did that cover it? I can't see the whole question, so I'm trying to read it.
It seems to me too that with the GameOn grant that you all have received as well through K through 5, the goal is for it to be more systems change, correct? Where it's being embraced at different levels, at different ways, but throughout the K-12 cluster, would you say? Is that correct?
Yes. So, yes, I don't think there's a set way to use the, like nutrition education and the movement break manipulatives, the indoor recess supplies. Mm-hmm. Everyone's using them kind of for their best interests, and it is just the beginning of November, so I think a lot of teachers are still sorting out how to best integrate a lot of these pieces.
Yeah. Great, thanks. And Ellen, one more, or is that it?
We do have some more questions, and we'll try to get it in real quick. You just mentioned equipment for indoor recess. Can you give an example of the type of equipment that was purchased for your indoor recess?
Sure. So we have yoga mats. We have some cones, kind of like, for, say, like an obstacle course or moving around. We have some soft balls, so not the hard kickball kind, but, soft squishy balls that would be safe for indoors. Some rings, I think, along with the yoga mat, some yoga cards, so they see poses and descriptions so they can practice independently. Trying to think. There's a balance beam that's styrofoam, so it's not raised off the ground really, but it's just a long beam that folds up so the kids can do some exercises on that. And there's some discs that are similar to the cones that they can just mark space to go around or to do a move, set of stations to do a certain thing at a station. And trying to think what else is in there. Bean bags, I think, like little beanbag toss type things.
That sounds like quite a extensive list. I'm excited to hear about how everybody uses it for the upcoming Wisconsin winter.
Agreed.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I know we're not going to be able to get to all of the questions, so we'll try to follow up with you all after the call. We're getting to the end of our webinar, so I'm going to move on. I feel like we could continue this conversation for the rest of the hour, but unfortunately our time is up. So going to just quickly wrap up our webinar today. As I had mentioned, the goal of our GameOn framework is to get schools nationally recognized. Awards and recognition help you to cement your school's wellness identity, which can be used as a marketing tool for your school. So if you're not aware of this, definitely check out the Healthier US School Challenge. This is a really great positive recognition that you can look to for your school to bring some more community awareness to the great work that you're doing. We have state coordinators all over the country who can help schools with this application to reach out, and we've also got great resources on our GameOn framework, so check out GameOn for more information. Well, thank you everyone so much for participating in our webinar today. We will be sending a follow-up email with the recording and the resources mentioned throughout the webinar. I'll try to get that out to you all by tomorrow, and that will include contact information for our presenters who have so graciously offered to share resources and expertise with all of you. In the meantime, please stay up to date on success stories, health tips, physical activity games, volunteer opportunities, and more by following us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Pinterest, Flickr, YouTube. You guys know social media. Check us out. Stay connected. We are so appreciative of you sharing your time with us today. Have a great rest of your week and have a great day. Thank you.